right, a good day to all. Sam here with you on a Monday, June 25th. Take a look at Bitcoin. We've had enough happen here over the weekend, well, including Friday, the last couple of days, since last video that I did, which was on Friday. So enough price action here to warrant an update, as we've had to relabel to accommodate the price action. And this is an account that so I've got Bitcoin here on the 4-hour. This is on Bitstamp here. Now, this is an account I had considered as an alternate, and so some of you may have seen this before. It's now, is it a perfect count? No, there's a few issues with it, but I think it's not unreasonable. So, working under the premise that I may have a technical pivot here that could support the end of the correction. It's tentative, obviously, as it sits here right now, but we can eliminate some possibilities. So as I said in the title, is breaking this low necessarily bad? Does that mean that we're headed down to 3,000, 1,500? I've seen all sorts of crazy projections. Well, maybe they're not so crazy. They're projections, right? So one guy's opinion or girl's opinion is their opinion. So I maintain my bullishness despite this very long and difficult correction. So I'm going to try and build a case here for a technical pivot down here. Now, just to review here. So the previous thinking had been that there was the deeper it got, the more remote the possibility was that this move here was an impulse. Turns out not to be as we break this. So there's no possibility for this to be a one wave and this to have been some sort of correction of that move. With the break, we have to relabel it. So as we look in here, and again, I won't go through too much detail here, but we do have, only because I've done it before, I've shown this count before. Boy, you got to just go, okay, again, you go back to where are the 5s and 3s? What's the simplest explanation or count that I can come up with? Well, I can't argue with the 5s and 3s because they're just too pervasive here. So the move down here into this 3-wave correction, no other way to count that other than as a B wave. We do come down and we get 5, so that has to be a C. So I've got a very clean ABC into this low down here, right? We finish with a diagonal. We get an ending diagonal. All the structure is there. It's a little bit of a push here because it looks more like we've got 5 coming down, and for a diagonal. So here's the overlap of the 1 here. If that's our 1, straight down 1, 2. With that overlap here, we're looking for that 5th to break down more as an ABC, but we can get it. We can get it this way. We can get an A, a B, and then coming down here for this C to give us that diagonal structure that we'd be looking for. So down here to this pivot low with an ABC into that 5 for an ending diagonal. Then we go up here. Now this is what's made it difficult for Bitcoin, is that these moves off of these lows, which have been technical, they haven't given us perfectly clear impulsive structure, but you could dig an impulse out of it, particularly on this one. Here, it was a little tougher here because you had the very shallow retrace for the 2, which was always difficult, and then there was this technical pivot here that was significant. So working from that, what was proposed to the 2, we went right to the golden zone up, but we double top. We failed to make the algo target. And again, as I will remind you, just because an algo target is there doesn't mean it can't fail. But this was a technical pivot. So it looked like we had the potential for this, a 1, 2, 3, 4, had to allow for the truncated 5th. So when you have an anomaly like that, it becomes a question mark because it's not the norm. So the fact that we failed here and we would had to have labeled that as a truncated 5th, that was always the question mark. And of course, we have the big algo pulls that are up here from our B wave. I can get it right on there down to my low here. So this is the one we've all seen many times. And this is why you see so many people coming up with targets down here around 3,200. So, you can't ignore that, right? There it is, double tapped and that unresolved. So that 3,200 down here is still a very, very valid target, right? But again, just because an algo target is there doesn't necessarily mean it must go there, as we saw this one fail. Now we do have one other additionally. So if I grab that same retracement tool and I take it from my absolute high here to my lowest low here, we see now we go through the golden zone by about 40 bucks there. Very, very close. But you know, it is a break, which had you, you know, kind of leaning more towards the bullish side as this came down. You know, I was trying to find a three-wave solution to accommodate it, but we don't get it, right? It's, you know, it's now. Have I sold any Bitcoin? Nope. Nope, I have not sold any Bitcoin. I still hold a pretty sizable amount of Bitcoin, and I don't have intention to sell it. The question is, when's the next time to be a buyer? As far as I'm concerned, that's the question. Now, you disagree with me? Yeah, you're welcome to. You're welcome to. I mean, I'm just showing you my perspective and trying to teach a few things in the process. And if we can come up with a roadmap here that would get us out of this, looking for opportunities for any of you that retain a longer-term bullish view. You know, are there some opportunities being created? Well, we got to. It's not easy in here, so we have to pick it apart. And all you can do, it's all you ever get, is just probability, right? So when I always am amused by people that comment to my videos that are so absolutely certain what the count is. You don't know what the count is, nor do I. All we do is we try and come up with scenarios, possibilities, ways that we could see this moving, and eventually, we're going to get a count that holds, and then that'll give us some advantage. But the fact that we've relabeled this repeatedly, welcome to trading. Jesus, I'm just amazed by some of the comments I get from people with so much certainty. My first question is, if you have so much certainty, why are you watching my videos? But, perhaps you're just looking for confirmation, or maybe you're not as certain as you like to think you are in the comments that you post under my videos. But putting that aside, let's see what we get here. So we've got these two. Now this we got to pay attention to this. All right, so here we get a little confluence down here, which I'm certainly aware of. So there's my algo target for so I've got two algo targets. Let me see if I can show it to you this way. So we've got the big one down here, right? So that would be here from that 50. Then we've got, despite the very slight break, I got to respect the fact that that was our pivot, even though we went through just slightly. I've got the smaller one here. And then I've got my second algo target would be the blue line there. So I do have this confluence down here, and I also happen to catch the lower parallel from this median line that I have here, which so far the market seems to be respecting. You see, we've tapped it twice, and we tapped it damn near to the tick on this last move down. So I'm not turning a blind eye to that. I recognize that's a very real possibility that we could be heading down to that kind of level. But I hold my Bitcoin, right? So, call me crazy, call me stubborn. I don't know, 6 months from now, it'll be interesting what you'll be calling me. All right, so let's having reviewed that, let's go down to smaller time frame here. Let me go down to the 60-minute here and see if we can build a case for a potential pivot. All right, so one thing, let's see, can I do this on a 1 hour? One thing that I thought was worth noticing here and just commenting. So given that if we allow for this, as I was showing you, if we allow for this to be a completed ABC, I'd have the 5 there. So I'd have a W wave here. So WXY just connecting two ABCs. In this case, we get a combination. So we get a second X wave. So we get a WXY, then another X wave here, at least as I've got it counted. All right, and I will remind you, I don't know for sure that's what we have, but I have a count here that's a possibility, that's a scenario that could play. So given that WXY down into this, if we allow for this, right? If we allow for this ABC into yet another ABC, this was also, again, what's made Bitcoin difficult, this move off of this low that looked like, at that point, looked like we might have a WXY. This looked very impulsive, and there is certainly an impulsive wave in that, but note here that we get this similarity of this price action here. So we have to count this one here as right. So here, we can get a 5 wave into this A, just as we get a 5 wave into this A here in yellow. And then we get the B and the short C. Well, we get something very similar here. Now we don't, here we get a more traditional B. Here I've got a truncated C in the B, but because I get this very clean 3 wave here, and I can get 5 coming down, I'm inclined to allow for this as a truncated C of a B. So I get A, B, C, and then I can get 5 here to give me that C, just as I can get 5 here to give me this C. So this common pattern here kind of gets my attention. So is this, something that it's, it's not identical. I know it's not identical, but it's similar, very similar. That I've got this ABC, and the real similarity is the shortness of the C wave relative to the A wave. So I'm getting this, and again, as I showed you before, we have this algo relationship up here. So if I take it from that high down here, get it right on there. So here you see it again. So we come here here we go into the 50, here we go into the golden zone. We do get just slightly through the 6.5, but then we've been straight down since that. Again, it's just looking for commonality. Again, it just caught my eye here that we've got that similar kind of a price action here. So I pay attention to that. So is that something that's just repeating here? So knowing that I've got this target down here. So here, this is this target. So from here coming down to this green, well, you can see it. From here is down to this green line because you can see where it starts. So I've got this algo target here. So I want to pay attention to that, and I've got these similar patterns here. Now, this has been difficult here. Right? It was just as difficult when we were trying to squeeze an ABC out of this. I do have this very clear 5 here that I cannot ignore. I've got 5. I've got a clean 5 coming down. I've got my 3 here for the B, and then I get an absolutely textbook perfect impulsive wave to finish it. Just couldn't be any better. So let me clear up some of the chart here so we can see this a bit better now that we've identified those. So, all right, so with that off, so here I'm working off of this B pivot down to this pivot here, and you can see we tap once, and now we've come and tapped a second time. Now I got to tighten these a little. Whenever you change time frames, you got to tighten them up just a little bit. All right, so here we can see here it looks like the market is respecting this. So I've got my clear 5 down here. Then I've got a B. Now I've got just a perfect ABC. So you can just to show it to you. So here's from my wave 1 length, from my 2, I hit the median line and the 100% the length of the 1 right here, just perfectly. Perfect tap. That sets up my 4. Now if I go to my 4, here's what we were looking at. Oh, we were looking at some variations of this on Friday. So here I tap the median line right as I'm breaking that significant pivot. That's what disqualified this as a 2, and then changing the count. So now I'm counting it as a Z wave of a WXYXZ. Coming down here, I've got this perfect 5. Now, so here I am tapping the median line again. All right, if you'll recall, if you saw that video on Friday, this was always a possibility that the median line really acts as a magnet. Market wants to go down and tap it, and you can see we tap, and we've had this reaction. Now, is that enough to bottom the market? Well, I'm not ready to make that call, but there may be some opportunity here. Here's the other thing that we have to pay attention to. From this 2, looking at the relationship to my 3. So if I get that right on there. Not sure I'm right on there. Okay, so for taking the length of my 2 wave, there. So 1, 2, down for the 3. It just barely qualifies, just slightly longer than that first wave. Right where I'm expecting the 4, and then I come down, I'm just a few shy of the algo target here as I tap the median line. That's a technical pivot. There's no other way to slice that. So there, I've got this good technical pivot. So could that be my bottom? Well, we don't have enough to really call that as a significant low, but it's certainly a technical pivot. So it could be the start. It could be the start of it. All right, that's usually where they start. There's some technical confluence down here. Now, is it enough to push us away? Well, we're going to need some more substantial move off of this. It's had a good start. Let's go down to the 15-minute and take a look at it. So pretty good start to it. So if we look at this now, let me open it up here so we can see it a little better. So here's my contender for that pivot low, and you can see even within this, I get a very shallow 2, but I get a 3, 4 spike down for the 5. Now I've got something here. So let's take a look here. So from this pivot low, it's hard to even get a 2 out of this, but it's there. So from my swing low to my swing high. Well, that looks pretty technical. So I've gone from the 38 to the algo target to the tick and then pulled back. So You know, our algo is trading off the 38. Well, they will at times. So I've got to go even to a, I think I had to go to a 3 minute to try and get a 2 out of this. Yeah, here was a 2. So if I label this, so I can get a 2 here. I can get a 1, 2. Looks to me like I've got 3, 4, and 5 going in as a contender for a one wave and an impulse nonetheless. An impulse coming off of that. So I got it. Where's my 2 is really the tricky bit. So here's my 1. There's my 2 here. So if I pull this up and look for that relationship between the 2 and the proposed 3 here, get it right on there. So we come right to the 50. Now we've gone to and through algo when we look at it this way, right? So it's as if this is my 4. And I'm not even sure that I'm done here yet. This might have another leg into it because it looks like I may have 1, 2, 3, putting in the 4. We're coming back to, you can see it, we're coming back to this area of support, prior resistance, potentially now kicking in here for some support. So we tapped it once, twice, 3, 4 times as resistance. Now potentially sitting there offering the support. Prior resistance becomes the support. So this has the potential to kick yet again, which would be all the better here. Now I've got a pivot here. I've got this labeled as a significant point to pay attention to. We'll go back and look at that in a second. But here, this is a contender. It's, you know, Bitcoin has always been, at least through most of this correction, the 2s have been the difficult part of it. But if this is going to trade as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've either put in the 5 or we've got another little push up here to go up for a 5. Now, see, I'm sitting here on a 3 minute, which I would only do to dig out a count. I would not trade off of that. Back to the 15 minute, where I would consider a trade. Take that off here. So now, given that, if this is going to, so we have a contender here for a completed 5-wave structure. So we get a motive wave contender. So if I allow for that, then I got to go up to my 5 high. I'm taking this back down to my prior 5 low. Right on there. So now, interesting, the 4 lines up right here, but that's just coincidental to this. So if that were trading as a completed 5-wave, allowing for this very narrow and tight second, well, I've got the start of something. I do have the start. Let's see if there's any geometry here. This looks like it may be too shallow. Yeah, not there yet. So we just don't have enough data there. But that is a possible one wave going in. So we don't, too soon to call it, but you've got a possible 2, 3, 4, and 5 going in. So let's go up a degree or 2. We can go up to micro. All right. So where's the trade? Is there a trade here? Well, yeah, I would trade this, and I likely will. So looking here now. So if we're going to come down, what am I looking for? Well, same thing every time. Same thing. A, B, C. Can I come down here with something like, I got to click that to stop it. So something like that for a second. Let's pull this off. Possible second setup right there. Now, again, we're not clear about we can't confirm this as my 1 high yet. Now we get this. Now it looks like that could be a contender. So is that tradable? Sure, that's tradable. So I'm going to be watching that. So if I get something down here at my 50, and again I can see prior, I've got, look here. So do the same thing here. So if we take this here, all right. So prior, so this little support, even you could drag it up here. So we've got these prior pivots, right? Support, pardon me. We tap it here. So prior support. Do we come back down? Do we get another level of support? Now, it remains to be seen, but that's why I start to look in that level and say, market has been responding here. So something to watch for. If we can come down here in a nice clean 3, right? Do we get something like this that would give me that, and can I get 5 in that C wave to make me more confident in that potential pivot as a 2, looking for the 3? Well, why take the trade? Well, even here on a 15 minute, if I'm going to get a good third out of this, it's always annoying the way TradingView does that. Okay, clusters them. Okay, so if we can get into that, let's assume we front run the 50. Here's our wave 3 target. We know that's going to be very close to the 1618. I'd be under the 65. No needs to give it much more than that. Knowing full well a second could come down, could go low, could go 786. We've seen the twos go damn near 88.7 and beyond. So that's just a contender. So I would not be buying with large size here. But putting that a stop under the 65, that's my target. That's 8.4 to 1. I've got the ingredients there for a trade. All right, now, is this the pivot low and the start of we're back to challenge the old highs up at 20K? Well, of course, I have no way of knowing that, but the ingredients are there. The ingredients are there for that to have completed, all right, particularly given the perfect tap of the median line. So you can build a case here. Something to watch for. So yeah, I will trade that. So that's one to watch. Again, I would put a stop under the 65. I would not go too heavy because now let's go back out to the 1 hour and put this in context. So if we're just getting started here, right? This would be the one wave of the one wave of the one wave. So if we get that move there, that would be encouraging. So we got some prior resistance here we're going to need to get through. So that one low, that would be significant. That's potentially now prior support to kick in for some resistance up here. We've got to work through all the big retracements on the way back. So this B wave is going to be significant. So here's the 50 here we got to get through. It's not until we get through 7,600 that I really am going to get comfortable in that pivot being in. Do we get something like this? You start to put that kind of with your eye towards the symmetry of it. This might be too much to ask for. If we're going to get that 3, 4, 5, probably too much there. But that might take us into the 50. All right, so we know to look for that resistance on the way back up. So here, and why am I using this? So here's the last 5-wave structure I've got. So we're looking for some movement off of this to correct it. Now, if we move it here, keep in mind this 5-wave structure could very well easily be just an A wave, right? We've got the possibility that we're just doing A, B, C, right? So that is something to keep in mind. So if we go, let's go, that'll work. So we could have an A, B, and a C and a deeper move here, which would get us up here. We're thinking bullish, but unless we get the turn there, unless we get the 4, 5. So ABC often can be easily to confuse as a 1, 2, 3. Unless we get that 4 wave where we get this little thing down here, and then we go up for the 5. You can't really confirm. ABC and a 1, 2, 3 just can be too similar. Now, if we get impulsive characteristics here, that we would add strength to that count in that scenario here. But we'll see. Part of it is a function of where do we pivot here on this? Well, first, let me get ahead of myself. First, I just want to make that point that just because we get 5 doesn't mean the correction's over. We could just be in the A wave of a larger correction. So you gotta identify what you think is happening and what else could be happening. That's all you can do. Beyond that, there is no certainty, only probabilities. Only probabilities and money management. You got a problem with Elliott wave? Drop it. Don't trade it. Trade the algo pulls, right? I mean, God, I can't even remember. I've done almost 500 videos. I bet I've shown that perfect algo trade 400 or 500 times. I mean, how much evidence do you need? Right, you got a problem with Elliott wave? Go, okay. Don't use it. You still got to factor in the fact that the price moves and retraces, You don't want to label it with waves. What do I care? Label it however you want. But I can tell you one thing for sure. A trend of whatever degree will retrace. And it'll retrace to these common levels. And then it'll go again. And then it'll retrace again. The market trades the same way. It has for, we're going back a long time, since they were making charts. So the idea here is that's a buyable trade. So what if it is the low? Does that make me a genius, a hero? No, because I do the same thing every time on every chart. I actually saw a guy comment and saying, yeah, I don't like the way this guy is trading because he does the same thing every time. I literally almost fell out of my chair. I make such a point of trying to emphasize the value of what I'm teaching you is doing the same thing the same way every time. Now, if you're losing money and you've thoroughly vetted this out and you can't make money with it, well, maybe it's not for you, right? So, certainly a lot of people doing it successfully. But if you're not making money, well, then, consider an alternate, right? Yet again, why are you watching my videos, right? Because you're going to see the same thing applied the same way, whether I do 500 videos or 5,000 videos. That's the entire point of it. As soon as you start thinking, I'll try something else. This hasn't been working. I don't know. I thought that was a 2, and it's not. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. You dance around over, you go to some other channel. Maybe this guy knows. I can promise you, I've been that guy. I've been there. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I promise you there are times where I've thought, oh, man, I got to try something else. It's just not working. Well, half of the value that I can offer to you here is saving you from making the same mistakes that I made and that most people make. What's the most value I can offer you is shortening your learning curve. I can't make you take these trades, right? You're going to do what you want to do, and you're going to view it however you want to view it, and you're going to draw your own conclusions. What I can do is just show you the evidence. Can't make money with it? Well, it's probably not the right approach for you. Or you don't understand the importance of money management. Because I never come on here and tell you that I know where the market's going. I tell you where it may be going. I tell you what I see, what I'm going to be doing. But I'm not here to tell you that I know where the market's going. Well, I can't recall ever saying that. I tell you where I think it might be going. And if it's going to go there, how it's likely to get there. But I am far from so arrogant to think that I know where the market is going. Boy, if you're watching my videos and you're coming away with that conclusion, you're not listening. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to give it a wrap. That's probably enough here. As this develops here, this could get more interesting, and we'll start to be able to confirm some of these pivots if they are going to hold. All right, so that's what I got there. I may be back here with one more later today. All right, guys, that's a wrap.